Hey everyone, thanks for joining us again. Online campus team here. I'm Robert Murphy and Jordan Johnson. And as you know, we're going through the book of Matthew right now at the church. And one thing we're encouraging everyone to do is get in a field group and go through this Matthew's book field guide. And we thought we'd take some time to answer some of the questions that are in the field guide. Not all of them, but just a few of them, just to have an online resource for you, especially for those of you who join us at the online campus. So on page 74 of the field guide, that's where we're going to be referring to. And it's also the passage from Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 12, also known as the Beatitudes. Now, it's a very famous passage of Scripture. And, last week, Jordan and I, we talked about how at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, we talked about how Jesus kind of flips the script with this whole sermon. He changes what we perceive as being spiritual, powerful, good, and says, look, you guys are just completely missing it. And he really sets that tone on the Sermon on the Mount with the Beatitudes. So we wanted to answer, to kind of discuss some of the questions here from the field guide. And so the third one up from the bottom there on page 74 says, each of Jesus' blessings has a for-they statement partnered with it. Now, which of the for-they statements seem most significant or attractive to you? And what makes you want more of that in your life? So Jordan, just when you go through them, what are some of the statements that really jump out at you and you kind of grab hold of?
Well, it's tough to nail down just one. They're all really good. If Jesus said them, he led off the sermon with them. So he's opening everything, then they all have their place. They all have a reason behind them. It's hard to say this one's more important than the other or anything like that. But I think just the one that stands out to me is, for they shall be satisfied. It's verse 6 there. And I just think that, everyone in life is looking to be satisfied. Mm-hmm. And Jesus here is, he's talking about those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. That's, going after what he has created you to be, what he wants you to strive for. And I think that he's trying to say that's how you're satisfied. And that's just, that's where you'll find that. So I think that's just one thing that, it's one of those things that everyone, whether they're Christians, non-Christians, whatever phase of life they're in, they're looking to be satisfied, and they're trying different approaches. And, Jesus is saying right here in verse 6, there's only one approach to be satisfied.
No, that's a really good point. I really like that, what you said there. And, I know in my own life where I've tried to look to other things to bring satisfaction of some kind, and people talk about the law of diminishing returns, and at first it seems like, oh, this is going to bring me fulfillment, but it never can ultimately fulfill like Jesus does. So that's really good. Yeah. For me, I liked, like you said, they're all, just great. Verse 8 sticks out to me. It says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And the reason this sticks out to me, I do not consider myself, obviously because of Jesus, pure in heart, but I just know I had a lot of brokenness in my life, a lot of bad decisions. If you've seen some of the other videos I've done online or just when I've shared at gathering, I have a past where I've overcome addiction, overcome a porn addiction. And so it's hard for me to see myself as pure at times, but knowing what Jesus has done in my life. And because of that, how, I was a believer before and had great experience with Jesus, but through that renewal and restoration, how I've been able to experience God in deeper ways because that's been removed from my life. So that's fun for me personally. It just definitely resonates with me, and grateful for that. God's always there, and he always wants to engage with us, no matter where we are on the spectrum. But the more I pursue purity and pursue him, I'm able to kind of experience that more.
Yeah.
So then, just kind of playing off that, we talked, and we'll talk more about this. The Sermon on the Mount is challenging. Mm-hmm. We talked about that. There's no way. It's almost like an impossible standard. Jesus knows, you can't do this, but you can do this. It's almost like a bit contradictory. But so the next question there, second one up from the bottom right after it, says, are you ready to embrace Jesus' version of the blessed life as described in these verses? What internal shifts will need to happen for you to consider yourself blessed when your life matches these descriptions? We talk about being mourning, meek, persecuted, and the blessing in that. So I guess the challenge is, obviously we all want to say yes, that we're willing to embrace that, and I'm sure, I know you want to, but what are the things you think you need to do to kind of really, it's not just talk, that I want to embrace this standard?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I think there's, when you look through there, the one characteristic that you should have is, I think, humility. And I think a lot of it is just saying, like, I don't have all these answers. Like, I don't have the perfect approach. Like, I know that through Jesus, that's how I find these things.
Yeah.
And, when you do feel meek, or, I don't know, you just feel like, you're poor in spirit. It's like, well, what do I have to do to fix this? And it's kind of a humbling of yourself and just really going to Jesus and knowing that is where you find your strength to get through these things. And it's that humble nature, just approaching him that way that I think really is when you see these, 4 days and, they satisfied, receive mercy, shall see God. Like, once you humble yourself and you're really coming to it where I just feel like the opposite of doing all these things is putting yourself first and being really self-centered. And that's your motivation. But when you take a step back and you put Jesus there and you see how that plays out through your life, I think that's when you start to see how you can actually, show those characteristics.
No, that's really good. I think just bringing it back to Jesus, kind of playing off that. For me, it's how do I be more like Jesus? And you're hitting on that, but like you see Jesus really exemplify all this, and we should. That's the standard we should go for. And for me, like the ending verses 10, 11, and 12, but just like, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Now, I think sometimes, I was a missionary before, and I think sometimes, we don't see persecution like directly here in America and just what we kind of associate with that, but we definitely experience condescension. Sometimes that can be even harder to deal with because it's subtle. And I know for me at times I want to respond, like be condescending right back and just put people down, put them in their place, because no one enjoys that. But these verses have always been a good challenge to me, like, hey, respond in love. It's not that there's times to stand up. There's times to stand up for justice. There's times to stand up for what's right. And that's where we need to be led by the Holy Spirit in that. However, but how can I respond in love to those people who are being condescending, who are mocking my beliefs or things I choose to do because of Jesus? And so that's, for me, it's been a shift. And just seeing, like, yeah, it is blessing. There is blessing in that. I'm continuing to grow. And then as I respond more like Jesus, I get more of that heart of Jesus for those individuals who, who are mocking me and being condescending. And so I know for me that's been a shift as I've embraced this, like trying to abide by these things in my life and just trying to walk that out in my own life. That it's changed me. You said you've had that more of that spirit of humility and taken that on. So it's a good thing. It's hard. It's near impossible. But I mean, it's something we should definitely go for in pursuing Jesus. And not only does it help others, but like we've shared, it transforms our own lives.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanna add, Jordan?
I just want to add, I thought it was very interesting. This book is N.T. Wright's Matthew for Everyone. And in here he has his own little translation. And the way he writes the Beatitudes is, wonderful news for the poor in spirit, the kingdom of heaven is yours. Wonderful news for the mourners, you're going to be comforted. It's just, he's not just, I feel like blessed is kind of a weird word sometimes to wrap your head around, but when I read it and it said wonderful news, it's like, yeah, Jesus is proclaiming this. Like, if you are this thing, there's wonderful news ahead of you.
That's good.
And then he tells you, what that wonderful news is. It's that you'll be comforted, but it's like, hey, this is awesome. Like, don't let the word blessed, I feel like for me, just reading that a lot growing up was like, what does blessed really mean?
That's
like,
good, yeah.
But it's like when you change that and kind of look more at what is it, how is it playing context? It's, wonderful news. And I just felt like that kind of, reading it that way gave this a new life to it.
No, that's really cool. And obviously, N.T. Wright's a great commentator. I know lead pastor Mark's recommended some of N.T. Wright's stuff as we go through. So that's great insight. And it is wonderful news. That's really good. Well, hey, everyone, we could talk more about this, but we'd love to hear from you. So if you have something you're getting out of just going through the field guide or the Matthew's book series, let us know. But hey, on behalf of Jordan and myself, thanks for watching this, and we hope to talk to you soon.